All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick's Strength and Power. So I wanted to make a video about the first bodybuilder slash powerlifter that we ever really saw as being a clear example of Synthol use. So Synthol, as many of you guys already know, is kind of a site enhancement oil used to volumize or kind of pump up the muscle and also, in theory, stimulate muscle growth. And probably the most popular injection site for Synthol is going to be the arms or the biceps. So Synthol wasn't invented until the mid-90s by someone by the name of Chris Clark. And honestly, I don't really think we saw it show up in mainstream bodybuilding until the late 90s. But I think one of the most clear examples of someone that was using Synthol or some sort of site enhancement oil was a strongman competitor by the name of Manfred Hoeberl, who in 1994 had the largest arms in the world. His arms were measured at the 1994 Arnold Classic at 25.75 inches or 654 millimeters without a pump. So again, this was right around the time that Synthol was invented, if not a little bit before, and certainly before it became popular amongst mainstream bodybuilders. And there are even photos going back to 1991, 1992, where you can see photos of Manfred competing in strongman, where his arms kind of have that distorted and warped appearance to them, where there's a clear sign that something weird is going on, such as site enhancement oil. So the fascinating thing about Manfred Hobro is that even though these kind of site enhancement oil type of drugs are a very vain, superficial drug that just enhances the appearance of the muscle, Manfred Hobro was actually extremely strong. In fact, he was a runner-up at the 1994 World's Strongest Man, which was the same year he had the largest arms in the world. He is also a 7-time Austria's Strongest Man and a 2-time Europe's Strongest Man. And that same year in 1994, in addition to the World's Strongest Man runner-up, he won another strongman competition, which was called the Strongest Man on Earth. Again, the same year that he had those 25 3/4 inch arms. Now, during the peak of his competitive career, Manfred was 6'3" and only around 300 pounds. Now, I say only because strongman competitors are typically a lot heavier than that, but Manfred was always relatively lean and always had, a pretty good physique. He was never really a big fat guy. He always had a pretty lean physique as far as strongman competitors go. Now, I've actually seen some speculation that Manfred did not use Synthol, and the argument that he didn't was because he was in fact so strong. And they go on to say, why would someone that strong and have, that much arm strength, why would they need to use Synthol, which only enhances the look of the muscle? But in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of you guys would agree with me on this, just looking at any photo of his arm, you can tell that something is clearly not natural about the shape of the arm, about the look of the arm. And of course, you got to factor in the overall size, having the largest arms in the world as of 1994. So in my opinion, there's definitely some site enhancement oil going on in those arms. And again, this is one of the first cases, if not the first case, that we ever saw of some clear site enhancement oil in the arms. This was something that we hadn't really seen before going up to 1994. I mean, think about the Mr. Olympia competitions leading up to that point. You had Dorian Yates, you had Lee Haney reigning for 8 years. Think about all the guys that went up against Dorian and Lee Haney. There was no one that was really a clear example of any type of site enhancement use all throughout the 80s, and I would say even up until the late 90s. There was a couple guys that started to look suspicious in the later 90s, early 2000s. But I would say as far as the bodybuilding scene is concerned, this was something that was not seen at all up until 1994, until we saw Manfred Hoeberl. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.